Welcome to Hey Podcasters, where we bring live discussion with our podcasters' guests, find answers, and gain new answers to some of the most challenging questions about podcasting. We believe it's the best way to get tips and learn.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Wow. I am doing a series of one-on-ones, and I have to take a deep breath because the person that I am here with is the reason why we're celebrating podcasters the total month of September. Oh my goodness. Were it not for International Podcast Day, September the 30th, had it been not for meeting the person that the genesis of all of this and him graciously saying, yes, I'll come and speak with you, I don't know what I'd do. Mel and I, we probably would have a lukewarm International Podcast Month, but because the genesis of International Podcast Day is here, I'm speaking with Dave Lee. Oh my goodness, he's going to take us back, walk us through the 7-year journey. It just started somewhere. He's going to take us there and just give us a snapshot. Picture into what that was all about. So thank you, Dave. I could go on and on. I'm fangirling really bad here. So I'm going to back out of the picture and let you come in. Take us back to where this all started, sir.
Well, Margo, it's great to be on here, and thank you. I love the energy. Your energy is contagious, and I think that's one thing that really grew International Podcast Day is the energy that those with a powerful voice and those podcasters and audio enthusiasts, that's what we need. We need that energy. We need that passion. And that's exactly what has grown International Podcast Day into what it is. So let me quickly just start off by, as we talked about, just getting a little background into how and when International Podcast Day was born. And so this actually dates back to the summer of 2013. Steve Lee, who is in fact my father, we are both co-founders of International Podcast Day. He happened to be driving down the road one day through his little town, and he heard a radio. I'm not sure why he was listening to the radio instead of podcasts, but this sparked an idea, so we'll take it. And he heard an advertisement, something on the radio about National Senior Citizens Day. And right then, he texted me and said, why don't we have a day for the podcast industry? And boom, right there, we had dubbed it National Podcast Day. So in September 2014, Steve and I put together a very short 6-hour live broadcast. And of course, 2014, we didn't have everything like Facebook Live and StreamYard and so many other great features we have now, YouTube Live and Twitch and so many different things. And so we used a combination of building our website, using Skype, having call-ins, and we had just 6 hours sort of fragmented throughout the day. And we had, a question and answer on Google Hangouts. And we did things with Dave Jackson. He had an Ohio podcasters meetup, and we invited Ray Ortega and several other podcasters to do a podcaster roundtable. And that's sort of where it started with the inaugural event. It was simply, 5 or 6 of us kind of putting our heads together. And immediately after we ended, September 30th, 2014, we got a lot of messages on social media being like, you guys need to make this international. The UK is blowing up with podcasting. The Western European is growing. Australia was already getting into the mix. And so instantly, October 1st, 2014, we rebranded to International Podcast Day. And since then, we started in 2015 by doing a 30-plus hour live stream. And what this entailed was Steve and I organizing multiple podcasters from multiple different countries and nations, and we did 32 to 34 straight hours of live broadcasting. And we were able to bring them in. We gave them, of course, complete transparency to speak about what they want, whether it's their expertise or what's going on in the industry, in the nations of Africa, the countries of China, wherever it may be. And so that's sort of the origin story behind it. And, since 2014, we have broadcasted, bringing about 350 podcasters from nearly 100 different countries. And we broadcasted close to 250 hours of content. And it's just been an amazing ride. The community has been amazing. And a lot of people, Margo, ask why September 2014. Why September? Why is that the month we chose? Well, it's pretty well documented that the first podcast was released in September of 2004. And so not only was it the start of National Podcast Day in September 2014, but it happened to also be the quasi 10-year anniversary of the industry itself. So we decided on that day in that year. And just from then, it's been an incredible ride. The community has really rallied around, and to the point where we are seeing meetups and pub crawls and comedy shows all over the place, from Brazil to Puerto Rico to Finland and Switzerland, Australia, China, everywhere in between. And it just continues to grow. And just to be at that forefront to get things started has been pretty amazing.
I'm just sitting here clapping away because the forerunners, somebody had to start, and you just kept the ball going. It's almost as though you and your dad were just doing this wonderful waltz and dance, and nothing was set. You all decided that you were going to just grow this thing out. How did how did you connect with China and all of these international places, the UK just blowing up? I mean, people just came to you. You used the word, they rallied to us. Um, how was it that you were able to get those connections and maintain them? Because I mean, 32 to 35 hours solid, that's a marathon to be applauded.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Social media is quite a powerful tool. And when we started this, we are like, okay, we have our hashtag International Podcast Day, hashtag National Podcast Day for a short time, but that is what we decided. That's what we need to push, and that's who we need to connect with by using our social media accounts. And it started very slowly, But the incredible part about this, Margo, is you asked how I connect. It's simply, for a long time, it was just social media. I reach out, I send individuals DMs, I send them tweets, I send them messages from like Facebook. I found them on Instagram. I caught their emails, or I made a connection from, somebody I met at a podcast conference or a podcast event, and they passed information along. And it really is, once you invite somebody to be part of a international event, they are 100% on board to get behind that. They want to be a part of that event because it's something, one, they can put on a resume, two, that they can share their audience with, say, hey, I'm going to be a part of this, come visit me, I'm going to share this story, this message. And so I think the one reason it has really taken off, and the one reason it was honestly quite easy to gather 7 straight years of 30 plus hours with 350 podcasters, is if you give them to freedom and you want to invite them onto your platform, say, hey, here's a few rules that we have. Otherwise, we're giving you a green light to bring in your community, to share your message, to share your powerful voice. And that's exactly what we did. So it's been quite a ride, as you said. A lot of people have rallied around, but we've also had to been very fluid with our event, because the podcast industry technically changes quite a bit year by year, sometimes even short swings, like month to month. You have new companies coming in, Apple Podcasts making some changes. And so we had to be fluid as the industry changed. And fortunately, we were able to partner with some good corporations and companies to be our sponsors to help us with that. But at the same time, you have to be fluid, you have to be dynamic. And I think by gathering so many different voices from people from so many different countries, you naturally create this sort of open and fluid atmosphere and sort of attitude. So it's been pretty amazing. I can't thank the community enough for doing so much. It's quite incredible to see.
Well, what I hear you say is, if I take the lead, many people, the world is waiting to get behind this. It's incredible that it had happened anyway in this society. But I'm thinking, then again, it's not, because Dave, do you find at the very source, and I've heard you use the word organic, at the end of the day, podcasters want to podcast, and they do it out of the love of podcasting. We always hear people talking about monetization, and that's great too. I believe that there's a place to build a business in podcasting. But do you agree that we do it out of the love of podcasting?
Absolutely. That's exactly how we started National Podcast Day, which in turn turned to International Podcast Day. It's something that Steve and I really wanted to do. For example, Steve and I have been actually podcasting together since 2009. We do our own technology show. And so we started that organically out of wanting to stay in touch. My father lived about 5 hours north of me. My brother and I were here in town. And so all of a sudden we wanted to connect. So we'd hop on Skype, we'd chit chat. And eventually my dad said, why don't we just record this and release it as these things called podcast? And so when he came up with the idea of International Podcast Day, I was like, yes, let's create this. Let's start it from the ground up. And it's truly has been an organic grind from just month to month, day by day, year by year. And it's truly a passion for us. I've always said, everybody looks for the monetization and the value of podcasting, and trying to at least pay for some of their services, some of their fees, whatever it may be. And I'm not going to fault anybody for doing that. Everybody has to start somewhere, and that's exactly where we started. We started as National Podcast Day. We grew from there. The community got behind it. We put a little bit more of our own personal capital, our own investment, our own time to make this happen. Every podcaster understands there's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of things you have to put on the back burner, whether that's, events with your family, whether that's getting things on your schedule on a week to week basis. There is a lot of sacrifice in it. But at the end of the day, once you do it from like you're saying, from where within, with this organic sort of idea in mind, it's going to grow. And you'd be surprised how many people want to rally behind you. You don't know that until you put yourself out there. Because I was very hesitant about, okay, what is this going to feel like as an American starting this international event, right? And it took a week and a half for that sort of reservation to just shed. And it's like, people want this to happen. They want to volunteer. They want to give their time. They want to create graphics. They want to create events. They want to share information with us. They want to be a part of our event. And that's one of the most amazing parts about International Podcast Day is what we've done has always been a 35-hour live stream, showcasing and featuring podcasters from around the world. But we have hundreds of other people that are doing so many more things than that. I've heard of podcast festivals and live events going on, it's been amazing. It's an around the world kind of celebration. And we've always wanted that to be we do our live stream. Awesome. We love to have you come. We love to invite people, but find your own unique way of celebrating. As you mentioned last year, if you started out as a 1-hour Facebook live event and it turned into a whole day feature, that's what we love to hear. And so we get creative, find fun, unique and fun ways to really get out there and celebrate the day.
I tell you, you guys, just the knowledge that that International Podcast Day was going on, it was just amazing. And I can't tell you, Dave, and thank you enough for just putting that on, because it brought me into the community, and I've never been the same since being a part of International Podcast Day last year. I've never been the same. I've always been an enthusiast and listener of podcasting, and I've been podcasting since 2017. But there was something about the community, the feeling of, wow, I am part of a global celebration. And people from Africa, because of the time differences, they were trying to come on to the Zoom link early, hours before. It was like, this is so cool, so you and your dad have changed lives. You have cemented us into this thing of podcasting. So you guys still podcast, correct?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we are wrapping up our show that we've been doing for over 12 years. In August will be our last episode, so it's actually coming up very quickly. But we're still going to be a part of the community. We're still doing International Podcast Day. We still have our connections, and so we've podcasted. See, it was May 31st. 2009, and we're going to retire our show August 31st, 2021. So it's been quite a ride, and it's pretty incredible. And I want to go back quickly, Margo, to a point you talked about with your event is, there's a reason people are trying to hop on the Zoom link early. They crave a connection. with like-minded people. And I think that's ultimately what you are, you and your team are absolutely doing. And that's why individuals in Africa and Turkey and in Finland and Germany are doing the same thing. They want to make a connection with like-minded people. And if that's podcasters, if that's influencers, if that's personalities, whether it be radio or podcasting, that's what it's all about. It's all about driving those connections. You don't know where those connections may lead. We've had incredible partnerships over the years, and I've been invited to be on part of podcast awards judging panels, and it's like you just never know once you dip your foot in the water who you're going to connect with, what's going to turn out from just a simply, a quick little chat on a Zoom or a quick little comment on a tweet or a YouTube channel, whatever it is. Don't underestimate those, because I think once you put yourself out there, you become you show who you are, and the ability to connect with people on a very different level is very powerful. And I think that's one thing that podcasting brings that not a whole lot of other industries, in fact, do.
Boy, I sure agree with that. We are not intruding into people's space. They are inviting us in, and we are able to get in their ears, get before their eyes. That is so intimate, and that is so very different. And I'm sorry to hear that you and your dad, Steve, are going to close down the podcasting. But what came to my mind is that you're not going to actively put it out there. But as we all know, podcasts are evergreen. We are going to be able to hear from you and your dad into the next century. You all have so much content out there until it's just crazy. And anybody who wants to go to YouTube, and they want to chart the International Podcast Day from years back, that's evergreen. That's there. So you guys just move on to something else, and you're always present. How does that make you feel? You guys are a legacy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because, as I mentioned, my dad and I, we have our personal podcast talking about the tech industry that we're going to retire here in August. But the international podcast thing, just like our old show, it's going to be around forever. We're going to have our website. People, it's always evergreen, like you said. It's technology, so it's constantly changing. But at the end of the day, we've looked and said, where are our priorities? Where should our time be spent right now? And that's why we also decided on International Podcast Day. We're definitely not going anywhere. We're International Podcast Day is still going to be active. It's still going to be going on year by year. We're just not going to be doing our live stream. And so what we always had in mind, our vision was, we're going to kickstart International Podcast Day. We're going to get it to a point where it's completely self-sustaining, where the industry, the podcasters, those with the voices out there, can create the day without us having to do our thing. And so what we've decided this year is to not do our 32-hour live stream, but we're just going to step aside. We're going to support and enjoy the celebration just like everybody else. So if anybody is a podcast listener, an audio enthusiast, anybody out there, if you're still planning to do a meetup, a pub crawl, a live stream, whatever it may be, maybe you're selling tickets for an event to learn about how to podcast, or for veteran podcasters, whatever it may be, we're here to support you. And I think that was ultimately the goal, is to eventually just step to the side, watch the industry take it over, and say, what's going to happen now with the day? And so, yes, we're still going to be a part of it. We're very active. We still connect individuals on social media. We still receive emails, and we plan things. It's just going to look a little bit different. So we're going to, as I mentioned, kind of go back to our roots of celebrating and sharing what everybody else is doing. It's just going to look a little different this year. So yeah, I want to make sure there was no misunderstanding. We're definitely not going away. And International Podcast Day is here to stay. It is something that obviously the industry loves. We love putting it on. We love being a part of it, just a small fraction. And so, yeah, everything in podcasting, there always has to be an ending to something. So we've decided to end our own show, but we're still deciding to use International Podcast Day and work with International Podcast Day, but just in a very different light moving forward.
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification, because wow, it's like a moving car. Once you guys started, there are no brakes, And after 7
Exactly.
years, I think that you and your dad, Steve, you guys deserve to be able to sit back and watch the fruit of your labor spring up nationwide, worldwide, and really see how people are taking, just moving along. And you can kind of like be like popcorn, uh, pop up over here and pop up over there, and just sit back and say, wow, wow. So I'm looking at the
Absolutely.
time. I
And there
don't,
is so
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, I
I
was
don't
going to
want to
mention
miss.
there is so much that goes on International Podcast Day. I think we, Steve and I, know a fraction of what goes on. So if we can just be a part and just share that out just for a part, that makes us very happy, because I know there's so much more that goes on with special releases. I know podcasters do giveaways, for their own merchandise, and free memberships, and like all a variety of things that happen on that day. Of course, we can't track them all. We don't expect to track them all, but it's impressive to just follow the hashtag, see how everybody's celebrating. And I do encourage everybody. There's so many fun ways you can get involved. We have a whole list over at internationalpodcastday.com. You can get involved. We have a bunch of benefits of being part of it. I'll tell you what, Margo, I have made some amazing friendships and relationships over the last 7 years. And, some of the people that I've met and talked with, we text on a regular now. I consider them more friends than like colleagues or an associate in an industry. And so it's like, I would also say for podcasters and those that are looking to get in this industry, find your own way to communicate with your connections. We have a lot of people that hey, just send me a text, just give me a call. There's other people, it's like, oh, I strictly work on email. Oh, just send me DMs. Everybody has a unique way of communicating. And I think that's been one of the ultimate successes we've had, is find a way to communicate with various people on various platforms, and don't overcomplicate things. Don't create, don't think it's complicated to reach out and ask somebody, for some assistance, or if you want to be a guest, or if you'd love to do this live stream with me. As you had mentioned, there is a lot in this industry that comes with no strings attached. They just want to share their knowledge. They want to pass along what they've learned, and they just want to be a good steward. And I think being from that position of being a leader and being a steward and giving back to what's given us so much, I think that's just really the core of sort of the guiding principle that we've used with International Podcast Day.
Wow. I can't think of a better way to end this wonderful conversation. Inviting everyone to participate International Podcast Day, September the 30th. I'm here with Dave Lee. Dave, give us that website once again so people can go over, pay attention to what's going on, and give themselves permission to prepare and celebrate that day in particular.
Absolutely. Internationalpodcastday.com is the easiest place. We have a countdown that's going on there. We only got 33 more days from the time we're recording. We got all of our social media links. We have free promotional material that you can share. You can put it on your website. We have audio promos you can include into your podcast or your YouTube stream. Anything that you need to know about the day, anything that you need is there. And of course, again, I encourage everybody, find your own way to celebrate International Podcast Day. And of course, follow and use the hashtag International Podcast Day during all of your adventures on September 30th.
Right. Everybody has that call to action now. Let's make a move. Dave Lee, I want to thank you. And please thank your dad, Steve. Thank him a million times for all of us in the world also. What a story.
I sure will.
What a ride. Gosh. Well, it's always hard for me to stop talking when I'm with someone who is a forerunner, someone who's done such amazing things. And Womel and I, we are going to celebrate all of September, but September the 30th, oh my goodness, we are going to band together. We're going to do a little dance and everything else, celebrating podcasters all over. We're arm in arm with you, Dave and Steve. So thank you very much. So everybody, you know how what to do now. You know what's next. So we'll see you in September as we celebrate, and definitely intentionally September the 30th, International Podcast Day. I'm Margo Lovett saying thank you, Dave Lee, Steve Lee, and we'll talk again later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Hey Podcasters. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us in your favorite podcast app or connect with us on heypodcasters.com so that you don't miss our next episode. We wish you happy podcasting and see you in the next episode.